Hello everybody, I'm glad you're here. This is part 2 of 3 dreams that my dad had consecutively. The first dream, first of all, this is February 14th, 2023. That's what today is. The first dream he had on February 11th, that's part 1. I'm about to bring you part 2. These dreams go together. Please listen to all of them. Please, they go together. They're just too long to bring to you all at once. So this is part 2, February 12th, 2023. This is what my dad dreamt. Once again, to the glory of God, look to the cross. I am shaking right now because of the, it feels like a dire warning of the urgent need to pay attention to what's going on, y'all, and look at yourself. All right. I'm going to read this dream to you. He had it on, this is part 2, February 12th, 2023. There was a meeting of people, and they were handed like a classroom, and they were handed sheets of paper to fill out their names and information. And my dad got the first piece of paper, and he sat down on the first row of desks and tables that were kind of arranged there. And another man came and sat beside him, and everyone was seated, and my dad was filling in the blanks, and a woman who was fairly young was overseeing this process. And she was kind of standing to the side and behind my dad, and she said, "Why are you starting?" And my dad said, "I thought I was supposed to fill this in." And she said, "When I talk to you, look me in the eyes." And my dad said, "If you want me to look you in the eyes, pull up a chair in front of me and sit down." So she had this shawl thing on, and she unwrapped her shawl and began hitting my dad, like whipping him with this shawl, and it didn't hurt. And my dad looked around, and everyone kind of seemed to be frozen, like in time. Well, she left and went to another part of the building, and I looked at the man next to me, and he was like, that was weird. What was that?" So they were waiting for her to return, and when she came back in, she was walking towards everybody, and there were 2 red dragon things in front of her, leading the way, and she was wearing black now. And she stopped and was holding like a swatter, like a fly swatter kind of thing. And except it was bigger, of course. And she stood beside my dad, and she began hitting him with the swatter. And it stung. And he said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Do not talk. You are banished to the stairway." And I went there, and it was red carpeted. It was by the room. He could still, it was in the room. He could still see everybody. But he was watching, and the guy that had been sitting next to my dad stood up in front of this woman and challenged her in defense of my dad. And she swatted him, and he pushed her hard. And she was surprised. But she walked to the back of the classroom, and she started hitting the people on the back row, hitting them, and one of them stood up. And when they stood up, she just went to the next person and started hitting him. And then that person stood up. And then the next person, they were all standing up to her. And she began screaming, because as they stood up, they became stronger together. And she began screaming and crying and shouting, "No, no, no, no." But they just kept standing up stronger and stronger. And my dad came down the stairs, and they all just pushed her out of the room. So the event was over, and my dad and the man who'd been sitting next to him and 2 others from the room were walking home, and they were walking down a road. The 2 men that had joined them, one turned off at an intersection and another turned off at the next one. And then my dad and the man who'd been sitting next to him were walking alone. They were outside the city limits. And on the horizon, it was shimmering. And my dad said, "That's water. My home should be there." And as they got closer, my dad kept saying, "My home is gone. It's under the water." And the man said, "My home is gone too." And my dad looked at him and said, "I don't remember you being in my house." And the man said, "I've always been with you in that house." And my dad was just so sad because he said, "My family must have all drowned in the flood." And he got real panicky. And there was a flashlight floating in the water. And the man told my dad, "Go get your flashlight and search for them." And my dad did. And he was in the water and he was looking down. He could see through the murky water the house. and it was horrible. And the man said, "We got 18 inches in 1 hour. And my dad said, "My family's all gone." And he felt awful. And the man said, they got back on dry land. And the man said, "You'll have to find out about your family by going to the police station downtown." So he stayed there, and my dad went alone downtown. He was walking between unfamiliar buildings. He found the police station, and when he got there, the door opened, and his entire family all came out to greet him. That was the end of that dream. Okay, now then, once again, the way it is connected to part one, there's a flood, there's water. Now, I think this dream is specifically describing the demonic attack on the people of God. I think that's who, when they're filling out their papers, that's their identification. I identify with believers. That woman represented a demonic being, a demonic attack. Now then, why did she start out hitting him with the shawl? I don't know. What was the swatter? I don't know. Those of you who are listening and that know more than me, tell me what those elements mean. I do believe the man that was sitting next to my dad was an angelic being. That he was a protector. He did come to my dad's defense. When my dad was banished to the stairs, it was as if he was trying to be tried to be put in jail, is how it felt. The fact that everyone started, the believers, the people who represented the believers standing up to the demonic attack, they had the power and their strength in numbers. Once again, in contrast to the other previous dream, make sure you're with strong, true believers in Christ alone. If you're not going to a church or connected to a group of people who are strong, true believers, you need to position yourself right now in a different position, because things are coming. Waves are coming. A flood is coming. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but once again, as in the previous dream, this house was underwater. I do not know 18 inches in 1 hour. I don't know what that means, y'all. I don't know. You'll have to just tell me, because I don't know. 11 and 9 equal 18. Is that right? Yeah. No. 9. No, that's not right. So that couldn't be it. I was thinking judgment and chaos. But maybe even 9 and 9 equals 18, which is the judgment twice of God. I don't know what the number 18 means. Y'all tell me. And in an hour. The fact that my dad had the light, the flashlight, is telling. We are the light. I don't know why the family was at the police station. other than maybe it represented safety, that they were safe. They came out to greet him as if reuniting true believers. The believers that stand up at the beginning of the dream, the believers now, we are united. No matter what happens. After this flood, we're all going to be together no matter what. So maybe that's what that represents. I don't really know. But here's my takeaway. There are strategies against us. Ephesians 6:10 tells us that from the enemy, which is Satan. And if we're not prepared with the full armor, he's going to swat us down. So I think that's what this dream means. That's the takeaway. This is part 2. Part 3 is coming. Be ready. It's also full of meaning, metaphors. Not only a warning, but a teaching. You better know where you're at right now. Your spiritual self. Obviously, physically, you need to be prepared for... I mean, shoot, y'all, I've been doing this video. My lights have been blinking because the wind's blowing. My electricity could go off any time. And you need to be prepared for things like that in the physical world. But what's most important is your spiritual life. Where is your heart? Position yourself now, because things are not going to get better and better. Things are going to keep decaying because of the world we live in is ruled by the father of lies. So position yourself truly with Christ. Square yourself with him to survive what's coming, the flood, whatever it is. That's all I have. Join me for part 3, please. It's amazing, and it's full of hope. This is Gina Lima Charlie. I'm out.